Bernard Gregg files police report after drone spotted above home. Other people could be involved in the Daphne Caruana Galizia murder, and Chris Fern takes a public stand against Marcia Scala Marina. All this and more in another episode of Lovin Daily. Good evening, Malta and Gozo. Welcome to yet another episode of Lovin Daily. I'm Matt Baldacchino, joined by our editor, Julian Bonnici. And we have another evening packed with news for you. So, Julian, do you want to kick things off for us?
Yeah, sure. A little bit of a spy story to kick it all off. Opposition leader Bernard Gregg has accused Prime Minister Robert Abela of ordering his party media house, One Productions, to send a drone to film his home and cook up a story about him. Bernard Gregg has actually filed a police report over the incident, with now the police tasked to investigating what is actually in effect spying of the opposition leader in the country. Neil Gregg, Bernard Gregg's son, actually described the incident to Lovin Malta. He said, and I'm quoting over here, "My mum was in the kitchen when she heard the propellers of the drone. That's how close it was. We heard the propellers from the kitchen. Then I walked out and found it going upwards. When I walked outside and remained staring at it, the drone kept pointing towards me for around a minute before it flew back up. It was literally hovering over us." For those of you who don't know, the law makes it actually really clear that people are prohibited from flying drones over people's private property without the consent of the property owner, with Transport Malta's guidelines stating drone operators must ensure they observe the relevant trespass laws. Now, Lovin Malta has spoken to some people about it. How much these regulations are actually being enforced obviously remains to be seen. What's really interesting is One News hasn't really actually published a story with the footage of the opposition leader's home. However, when questioned by the Times of Malta yesterday, Abela told them to look at the opposition leader's villa with a pool, asking how they could have built the property while declaring an annual profit of €6,000. He actually repeated this statement, and this is all coming at a time while he's trying to deflect criticism over a property deal he had entered with Christian Borge, a car dealer who was recently charged with kidnapping a man and actually suspected of being part of a drug smuggling ring. On Abela's part, he's actually categorically denied all involvement, saying he didn't even know about it, saying, and here's another quote, "If it happened, not only do I condemn it, but I believe that family life should not mix with the political roads we have. Respect for family privacy should be absolute." I mean, good to see Abela deny it, but this current issue is actually stinking quite a bit to high heaven. I hope it actually gets to the bottom of it. Unfortunately, it depends to see how much the police can actually catch the perpetrator, but you'll hear more about that on Lovin Malta tomorrow. Matt, what do you think about the story?
I mean, it really brings into focus the issues surrounding privacy of both public and private persons when it comes to drone use, right? Especially in residential areas. This is by far not the first time this has happened. We've had other previous recorded cases of this happening to public and private persons. You can check them all out on lovinmalta.com. Interestingly, on the front of the police investigations, Neil Gregg, son of Bernard Gregg, was able to spot the model of the drone. In this case, it was a greyish-white Mavic Pro. So maybe that will help the police with their investigation. So we'll see how this is going to develop. Speaking of investigations, our next story involves the Daphne Caruana Galizia murder. Other people could be involved in this unfortunate assassination, according to Deputy Attorney General Philip Galea speaking in court. This follows the case proceedings instituted by George and Alfred De Giorgio, two of the suspected hitmen, over their continued detention. Probability is that there are other persons involved, Galea said. In their defense, lawyer William Kushkir insisted the presumption of innocence, that his clients had seen two pardons requests to turn their state witness on major crimes, including murder, turned down. So far, Jorgen Fenech, the De Giorgios, Vince Muscat, Adriana Jus, and Jamie Vella had been charged in connection to the murder. Muscat is the only one who's pleaded guilty and has given evidence on the case. Melvin Teuma, the middleman turned state witness, has linked several people to the murder plot, including former Minister Chris Cardona and Keith Kembry. However, he has been reluctant to admit it outright. In a recording played in open court, Fenech claimed that there could be up to 4 other people involved in the plot.
Yeah, really, I guess kind of shocking stuff, but really and truly, I don't think the Deputy Attorney General is saying anything, none of us really suspected, We've heard Melvin Thomas sitting, we've heard how Fenech talked on recordings that really hinted at a web of criminality around the assassination. What I just want to say is, we've seen a real lot of positive movement in terms of the arrest of Jürgen Fenech, the Giorgios, the Maxar brothers, Jamie Vella. However, I really don't think the case is closed. The fight for justice has to continue, and anyone who was either involved in the plot with some shape or form should see justice. So it's not over just because a few people are arrested. Let's please continue following this really, really important story. Onto our next story. Following pressure from activists and residents, Deputy Prime Minister Chris Fern, who is a candidate on the 3rd District, has taken a public stand against the proposed Marsa Scala Marina. While speaking with the Times of Malta, Fern, who runs the election in the district that includes Marsa Scala, said that he's imposing the marina, as well as saying that he believes the untouched area surrounding the bay should remain as is. Here's the quote: "I believe that the part of the Marsa Scala, which is undeveloped and where residents can enjoy it for swimming, recreation and fishing, should remain undeveloped, and residents should continue enjoying the Marsa Scala Bay as is." He also made reference to keeping up with the town's traditions, as well as mentioning fishermen who really have their moorings in the bay. The fishermen have been one of the most vocal protesters against this controversial project. Ironically enough, though, Infrastructure Ian Borge said both he and the Prime Minister agree with Chris Fern's statement, but saying, that the swimming for residents and fishing will not be affected by the proposed project, not saying that the proposed project won't happen. He said, and I quote, "The government's position is perfectly in line and identical with Fern's stance." He also assured that he's going to visit the local council, who have actually said they are against the marina. Now, this little game of semantics between Borge and Fern actually does raise some serious concerns about the project. While at the moment, for those who don't know, it's set to cover the whole bay. I don't want to say guarantee, but I believe, that eventually we're going to be introduced to a much smaller project and presented as a compromise. Obviously, it's really worrying. There's been a lack of transparency around the deal, and I don't know. We'll see what's going to happen. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, again, I think it'll be very interesting to see how this is going to play out, right? Unfortunately, Marsa Scala as a town developed very quickly over the last few decades and has almost become the South's poster child for, construction and overdevelopment. Interestingly, right on this topic, yesterday, activists and residents started pasting stickers onto their doors telling electoral candidates to skip the visit if they are not publicly against the proposed marina. So I'd be curious to see if Fern or any other candidates will come across this sticker while doing their rounds. Moving on to our next story. Air Malta engineer calls out bullying at national airline. John Baptist Camilleri, who was pressured to resign after 40 years on the job, has criticized the airline's management for bullying, quote, employees to quit their jobs. Speaking at a recent interview on NetLive, Camilleri said, quote, "Many workers, myself included, don't want money but our job." Camilleri is also a PN candidate and a Marsa Scala councillor. However, when you weigh everything out, they're giving us a sum of money to leave as quickly as possible. If we don't take it and the company fails, in 2 years' time, we'll sink with it so our hands are tied. Camilleri is one of 571 Air Malta employees who voluntarily resigned as part of a last-ditch cost-cutting scheme to save the ailing airline. All of these workers will now remain on the government books and are set to be moved to jobs with the same salary grade. He voiced his frustration as well at how things have developed in the recent weeks, warning airline management has adopted a stance of stubbornness when workers offer their help to find a way forward. Working with the state airline is no joke, he said. One feels a certain obligation and duty that cannot be understood unless you actually work there. I'm ready to accept certain changes, but at least give us the chance to save our jobs and the airline. And then if the plan fails in 2 years' time, I can leave with dignity. But no, it was either we leave today or nothing.
Yeah, it's really got into the last chance saloon, right? For the national airline that has been struggling for decades, even though Conrad Mizzi claimed that they were making a profit a few years ago. It's really sad to see a story like this, to be quite frank. You start seeing people, have worked there all their lives, have devoted their careers to it, being told to just get up and leave, or essentially you're the cause of the struggling airline. I really hope it's going to be addressed, and I really hope this quite strict and harsh measure the finance minister is taking is actually going to pay dividends, because at the rate things are looking with COVID, with Brexit, with everything, the airline could be heading for its grave soon enough. On to our last and final story from an airline that's desperate need for a makeover to people who work in the field. And Maltese TikToker Henry Galea's latest features with none other than massive international beauty star Nikita Dragoon. The Maltese influencer has been featuring a number of special guests on his feed ever since making the move to LA. The YouTuber, TikToker, actress and beauty entrepreneur has dozens of millions of followers over all her social media platforms. She spent at least part of Sunday chilling with Galea, who featured her for a special grilled cheese pass. The 26-year-old Dragoon, who has actually recently featured on a new Netflix series, The Hype House LA, is of Vietnamese and Mexican descent and came out as a transgender woman as a teenager. Since then, as I was saying, she's amassed millions of followers, so really, really cool, to see Henry Galea sort of mixing it up with some of the world's biggest influencers out there. I know people might turn their nose up to influencers out there, but people like Henry Galea do some really amazing work. I really actually do recommend checking out his TikTok page, his Instagram pages. There's some really, really cool work, and great to see him doing well abroad, what can I say?
Yeah. Henry Galea, congratulations once again for the move. For a bit of background, the TikTok winner of the SMAs this year, Henry Galea, moved to LA as part of being accepted into a foreign clubhouse. This was back in January of this year. Some of his upcoming work in LA includes representing, again, Maltese company Tolly at the upcoming makeup exhibit over the next few weeks, so be sure to look out for that. That brings us to the end of another episode of Lovin Daily. This has been Matt and Julian. Have an evening full of lovin'.